Greetings to all of you. I want to talk about the full moon on December 4th. This is coming in a powerful month when we are moving towards the new moon on December 19th, which will also be the time when 3i Atlas makes its closest approach to the Earth. And all of this will occur a few days before the December solstice. So December is a very powerful month. And I think this full moon on December 4th is guiding us in how to be preparing for getting clarity about this transformational energy that we will be experiencing in a profound way at the time of this upcoming new moon on December 19th and solstice. And as many are talking about, including Kelly Kolodny, who I just interviewed this past week, this solstice will be a time of a potential transformation, rebirth for us as humanity to move into new ways of being. And I think 3i Atlas is helping to seed this higher frequency, these codes of higher consciousness to support us in this time of transformation and transmutation. And I'll be doing a more in-depth video on this upcoming solstice and pass of 3i Atlas by the Earth. But let's talk about this full moon that is preceding that powerful time. Let me show you the chart. The full moon will occur on December 4th here on the east coast of the US at 6:14 p.m. And you can see that the sun will be at 13 degrees of Sagittarius, the moon at 13 degrees of Gemini. One of the things that I think is highly significant is that the sun and moon will be exactly squaring the lunar nodes. From an evolutionary astrology perspective, that means this is a significant karmic moment. The sun will be applying to the south node, the moon to the north node. Let's unpack this a little bit and decipher what this may mean for us. The moon at 13 degrees of Gemini, the Sabian symbol for that is two people communicating telepathically. It is about transcending our ego, our culture, and our physical third dimensional reality to be in a process of expanding our minds. It's so significant that in my recent conversation with Susie Miller, we are talking about this whole capacity to be telepathic. And this is something we are being called into more and more fully as we move through this time of transmutation and transformation. And I strongly believe that in more ancient times, when we were at a higher level of consciousness, that came naturally to us. And I think this full moon is giving us that reminder that this is a part of the change process that we're in this time that we're in on the planet as we're exiting the Kali Yuga, the time of our lowest level of consciousness, and being called into this time where we have the capacity to make this quantum leap into higher consciousness. The sun at 13 degrees of Sagittarius, the meaning of that is a really interesting image. The image is the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. And the meaning of this degree is that these ancient symbols and sites, like the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx, are enduring symbols of our ancient wisdom and hold that archetypal energy. This is some of why I take frequent trips back to Egypt, because I believe those sites reverberate with that ancient wisdom that we have forgotten. And they're calling us back into that remembrance and into higher consciousness. So if we look at these the meanings of these degrees of the sun and moon, and they're squaring the lunar nodes. Let's look at the symbols, the Sabian symbols for the lunar nodes and their meanings. So the North Node at 13 degrees of Pisces is about our dedication to being on a spiritual path. South Node, 13 degrees of Virgo. How are we understanding and exploring our ancestral lineage? So with the sun applying to the South Node, this is about how are we paying attention to these enduring symbols and sites that hold the remembrance of that ancient wisdom to reflect on our ancestral lineage, who we've been, what we're now capable of as we're in this time of transition, and we remember that ancient wisdom from the past. The moon is about how are we committing ourselves to expanding our minds, to remember these skills that we once had when we were coming from higher consciousness, higher frequency to North Node and Pisces. Be dedicated to be on a spiritual path as we're in this transition time. So much of the energy of this full moon is about reflecting on where we are individually and collectively in our evolution of consciousness, committing to being on this path of expansion, of movement into higher consciousness, to remember the wisdom of the past that can guide us as we move forward through this time of change and into this evolutionary leap into higher consciousness. We also have at the time of this full moon the ongoing trine with Jupiter, Neptune and Saturn, and Mercury. Mercury has now gone direct. It went stationary November 28th and moved out of being retrograde and is now direct. And this water trine, which was very active at the time of the new moon on November 20th, is still active now at the full moon on December 4th and will continue to be in effect until December 11th, when Mercury will move into Sagittarius and out of Scorpio. I believe this water trine is guiding us to dive deep into our own emotions, to be willing to look at what's in the unconscious, Mercury and Scorpio, to be guided to be holding compassion, Jupiter in Cancer, for ourselves and others as we're on this spiritual journey. Saturn and Neptune and Pisces, as we're moving towards their exact conjunction in Aries on February 20th, guiding us in this time of spiritual reflection, of examining our emotions, of being in this change process to be able to move into the new forms as we move into that conjunction in Aries on February 20th, 2026. So in a way, I see this water trine being not only about reflecting on our emotions, trying to hold compassion for ourselves and others, but guiding us to be aware of how this is also a time for us individually and collectively to be in a process of purification. What do we need to release? How are we needing to reflect on those aspects of ourselves, those patterns we're caught in, or those emotions that have weighed us down that we need to cleanse and clear and release in order to be in this process of transformation and movement into higher consciousness? The one other thing I want to say in terms of the aspects at the time of this full moon, it's very significant that Venus and Mars are conjunct the sun. They are actually moving into conjunction with the sun All three will be at the exact same degree on January 9th. Venus and Mars are ending their cycle together in their synodic cycle to begin a new journey. And they're currently under the beams of the sun, which I think is highly significant in that 3i Atlas made its pass by Mars on October 3rd. It's passed by Venus on November 3rd. And now the two of them are bathing in the energies of the sun and 3i Atlas. Both Venus and Mars are in a superior conjunction with the sun. And you can think of this as a time of the sacred marriage between them and a way in which they're in their own healing and purification process. And I'll be doing a video soon going more in depth into their journey and what the meaning of this is, that the two of them are in this time of transformation with the sun and in their own time of healing, clearing, and moving into new ways of being and a new cycle in their relationship with each other, which again, I think echoes the importance of how we are reintegrating the sacred feminine with the sacred masculine to come into wholeness, to be moving into a new phase as humanity, a new way of being and of coming back into harmony. Now let's look at what other points are in strong aspects to the sun and moon at the time of this full moon. Part of what I think is very significant when I examined what asteroids, what Kuiper belt objects are in strong aspects at the time of this full moon, they're guiding us to look at how we are in a process of healing, of inner reflection, but also of reintegration of the energies of the sacred feminine wisdom. We have the asteroid Psyche conjunct the moon opposite the sun here at 16 degrees of Gemini. And that's related to the myth of Psyche and Eros. And part of the meaning of this asteroid is it's calling us to look at those deeper aspects of ourselves and to be more and more aligned with our soul self. So it's resonating with this, the meaning of this moon at 13 degrees of Gemini. How are we being committed, dedicated to being on a spiritual path, to aligning with our soul selves as we're in this time of transition? The sun and moon will now not only be squaring the lunar nodes, but both will be squaring the healing centaur Nessus, which is about how are we taking responsibility for our ancestral lineage and the wounds that need to be purged and cleared and released for us to be moving forward on our spiritual path. It's also significant that the sun and moon at the time of this full moon are in aspect to the healing centaur Chariklo. And how, again, are we holding that compassion for ourselves and others as we're in this time of healing and transformation? It's also significant to me that the sun and moon will be in aspect to Chiron, again, about how are we healing our sense of self, and also to the asteroids Pallas Athene and Ceres, which are about reintegrating the energy of the sacred feminine. Ceres, our connection to the earth and that capacity to honor those nurturing qualities in ourselves. Pallas Athene, how are we connecting to our intuition and that deeper knowing, now supported by Chariklo, to hold ourselves in this time of reflection, intuition, reconnecting with ourselves and each other with compassion, to be in right relationship and reclaiming those lost aspects of ourselves to heal and come into wholeness. It's also significant that the sun and moon will be in aspect to the Kuiper Belt objects Makemake and Varuna. Makemake is about how are we in a transformational process and a regenerative process in our relationship with the earth, which I think is also continuing to come through very strongly in this ongoing powerful square between Pluto and Haumea. And it's helping us to realize the earth herself is in a process of transformation, regeneration, healing, and ascension. But it's also significant that the sun and moon are in aspect to Varuna, which is about how are we in right relationship with cosmic order, with moral order. And Varuna, as the god of the night and the ocean, is also about how are we exploring those hidden aspects of ourselves to come back into balance and harmony and order. So again, with the close connection to Psyche, Varuna, the healing centaurs, there is such a theme in the energy of this full moon about the importance of our going within, reflecting on our ancestral lineage, reflecting on our own lives, clearing what we need to clear to heal, to move into wholeness, to be dedicated and committed to being on a spiritual path, to being in alignment with our soul selves, to be moving in this direction of higher consciousness. I think some of the theme of this is the importance for us of doing the work that we need to do to be preparing for these powerful shifts that we're moving into, to be clearing the dense energy, the trauma from the past, whatever weighs us down, so that we can be integrating these energies coming to us from the sun, from the galactic center, from 3i Atlas, to be moving into higher consciousness and into this spiritual expansion and these new ways of being that we're being called into. Let's look now at where this full moon is in the sky at the time of the full moon. At the time of this full moon, you can see that the sun, in its conjunction with Mars and Venus, are above the stars of Scorpius, below Ophiuchus. This is so much about being in a time of transformation. They're all close to Antares, particularly the sun and Venus, that royal star that is about being in a transformational process, burning away what needs to be released to come into the true gold of who we are. And being under the stars of Ophiuchus, it is about under the care of the healer, guiding us into that integration of the sacred masculine and sacred feminine that is so symbolized by Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer, guiding us in this transformational process. The full moon will be in the sky, in the stars of Taurus, close to the royal star Aldebaran. Aldebaran, the meaning of that royal star of the east, is about living with integrity. So remember, we discussed the moon is about being on a spiritual path, being committed to our self-improvement, our alignment with our soul selves. And now in its placement in the sky, it's about how are we living in our lives here? How are we embodied, Taurus, in that energy of alignment with our soul selves, to be living in integrity in all that we do. As many of you know, and as I've talked about in my video on working with the medicine wheel, I think these royal stars coming out of ancient Persia are very important. We have our medicine wheel in the sky, with each of these royal stars marking the directions east, south, west, and north. But I think it's also significant that these royal stars, Aldebaran in the east, Fomalhaut in the south, beneath the stars of Aquarius, Antares in the west, the heart of the Scorpion, the stars of Scorpius, the royal star Regulus, the heart of Leo, the royal star of the north. These stars are marking the four directions and are our medicine wheel in the sky, mirroring our connection with those directions and energies here on the earth. But they're also guiding us in these core qualities that we're meant to integrate, to come into wholeness. Aldebaran in Taurus in the east, integrity. Fomalhaut under the stars of Aquarius in the south, wisdom. Antares, the heart of the Scorpion, Scorpio, transformation. And Regulus, the heart of Leo the lion, living from our hearts with courage. And each one is challenging us to develop those qualities and not fall into the shadow aspect of each of them, because these are powerful energies that these stars carry. And the shadow aspect of Aldebaran is living out of integrity, living with dishonesty or greed or power over, not caring about living in right harmony, right balance, right integrity. Fomalhaut, it would be about coming into the illusion of disconnection and not being in alignment with the living energies and wisdom of the cosmos. In the West, Antares, when out of balance, is being in obsession and intensity in a way that's destructive rather than about transformation. It becomes about traumatization. And Regulus in the north, out of balance, is about getting caught in ego and narcissism and power over, instead of being attuned to how are we living from our hearts with courage and letting the light of the cosmos flow through us. We become identified with that and want to be the light and want to be the center of attention and get caught in narcissism. We can see how the shadow aspects of all of these royal stars are playing out in our world, and yet they are calling us into their deeper archetypal meanings, the ancient wisdom that they hold to guide us into wholeness, to come into balance. So it's significant that this full moon is calling our attention to those stars, and in particular to Antares, the heart of the Scorpion under the stars of Ophiuchus, which, interestingly enough, that part of the sky reflects where we were in our last time of being in the golden age, the time of higher consciousness. So I think this full moon with the sun close to Antares is saying, be in your own time of purging and transformation, to remember that ancient wisdom, to remember who we are and who we're capable of being, to move into higher consciousness. And the full moon close to Aldebaran in Taurus, it was in the age of Taurus that we began to move into the Kali Yuga, the time of forgetting, the time of separation, the time of losing our integrity and capacity to live in right harmony. So the full moon is saying, remember that cycle that you've been in, that you're emerging from, and that you're now being guided to be on a spiritual path, to come back into integrity, to come back into embodying that ancient understanding of how we can return to cosmic order and live in a way that is in right integrity, that is about living from that place of ethical responsibility and right relationship with all that is. So, in a profound way, I see this full moon as a time to get clarity about what we need to be aware of, how we are in our own deep inner process to be cleansing, purifying, healing, preparing for this powerful time of the upcoming new moon and solstice, December 19th and then the 21st. And Three Eye Atlas, which will be making its closest pass to the Earth on December 19th, is now in the stars of Virgo, and it is opposite in the sky where Saturn and Neptune are in the stars of Pisces, and opposite Comet Swan, which is visible close to Saturn and Neptune in the stars of Pisces. So there's such an emphasis here on not only how are we on a spiritual path, Pisces, to bring that into embodiment, Virgo, but also remember those constellations are symbolic of Pisces and Virgo, Mother Mary and the Christ, the Sun, the Fisher of Men, guiding us back into harmony, into cosmic consciousness, into remembering that the kingdom of the divine is within us, that we can come back to being on a spiritual path and coming back into balance. Remember that the age of Pisces was trying to heal the out of balanced energies of the age of Aries when we got caught in separation and that illusion of our disconnection from the earth and sky, got caught in power over and those destructive paradigms. We are being called to reclaim that wisdom from the age of Pisces that we've forgotten, to prepare us, to support us in healing, and to be in this transformation, to move into the age of Aquarius, to move into higher consciousness, to be in this profound time of moving into a new phase as humanity. So let us all do the inner work that we need to do at the time of this full moon to be in preparation for this powerful time towards the end of December. And may we support each other in this journey to hold that higher consciousness, to be connecting with each other and creating that healing grid around the globe, to support us all in releasing these destructive paradigms, to know that we're being called into a time of rebirth, of movement into new ways of being that are coming from integrity and right harmony and compassion and living in higher consciousness. I will be talking more about this powerful, powerful time of transition this December 2025, preparing us for moving into the new forms in 2026 in upcoming videos. But I hope that we all can take this time at this full moon to do a fire ceremony, to do a water ceremony, to clear and release what we need to release, to be opening to the changes that we're all called into and the healing that is there for us. Blessings and love to all of you. Blessed be.